Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rosie and today I'm going to be going over an awesome brand new bag pattern that was just released by a Quaint Stitch. Nipa over at a Quaint Stitch reached out and asked if I would test this pattern for her, and I was over the moon excited to test this bag. I love the original Wayfarer, and when she said that she had made a brand new pattern, the Wayfarer 2.0, I was like, what? A brand new Wayfarer and it's larger? What's not to love? So without further ado, here is the Wayfarer 2.0. Well, look at this bag. I love this bag. I love it so much. The original Wayfarer is a bag that I absolutely love and I will use on a daily basis. It's my go-to everyday bag. So the Wayfarer 2.0 will now be my new everyday bag. Isn't she pretty? So she has a front pocket right there. Oh, and I got some lip gloss. I've been using it already. So we have a front pocket. We have the front flap, which unbuckles here with a buckle slider. And we have a main compartment with a slip pocket. This slip pocket is a pen pocket in the pattern. I just use it as a one big pocket so I can put some stuff in there, and I don't really carry pens, but do you. So we have a main compartment, and in the main compartment we have a gadget pocket which goes all the way down. It's a good sized pocket and it does fit an iPad, and then we have a zippered pocket right on this flap. So the main compartment is very, very large. Look at that. It's definitely backpack style. You can fit quite a bit in there. So we zip that up, buckle this back up, and then on this bag I did add a D-ring on the buckle. It's not included in the pattern, but I added it, and it's mainly so I can hang my bag because I like to hang it. So up to you if you want to add that or not. And then another feature of this bag that is not in the original are the water bottle holders. So I chose to do 2 water bottle holders, one on each side. And you can choose to do 1 bottle holder or none. So up to you. And then on the back side, we have a zippered pocket, which goes all the way to the end. Good size pocket. It fits your phone. It can fit your keys. Whatever you want on the back side that you don't want anyone to have access to. And then the coolest part of this bag is that there is an optional convertible strap, which is the option I did choose to do today. So it can be worn as a backpack. So you unzip it and it becomes backpack. How cool is this bag? I absolutely love it. And then it can be worn as a sling. So you unzip it, unclip one of your swivel hooks, and then you clip it on the other side, and it's now a sling. What a cool bag. Materials I chose to use on this bag are vinyl, so my floral print from mormino.com, and the accent color, which I don't know where I got, but I've had it for a long time. I think it's a marine vinyl. I didn't have to interface any of my vinyl, which is great. It makes cutting out the pattern quickly and quicker to getting to sewing. So I chose all vinyl for my bag. And then on the inside, I have waterproof canvas, which is also not interfaced. So up to you on the fabric choices you use. Remember to keep in mind your fabric choices and what your machine can handle, because it can get bulky. So if you choose to do the binding method, which we are doing today, because there's a birthing method and then the binding method, which is awesome to have. She has it written in the instructions for one or the other, and I chose binding. I make my original Wayfarer with binding also. I feel like it just gives the bag amazing structure, especially around these curves. The binding is just, it makes the bag just really stand out. So if you choose to do the binding method, which I encourage you to do, it's not hard. It's just go slow. And if you do the binding method, just make sure that you keep in mind that if you use all vinyl, that your machine can handle all vinyl. If not, you choose lighter fabrics and you can still do the binding. So my pockets are a cotton woven. So I chose to do like my slip pockets, and then the inside of my pockets are cotton woven. And I did interface that with a woven interfacing. So let me grab a stool so I can give you an idea of what it looks like on. Okay, so I grabbed a stool. I'm 5'1" and I'm a very small framed person, so it can give you an idea of what it would look like. So here we have it set as a backpack, so I'm going to unzip it. And that's what it looks like on as a backpack. Hopefully you can see that. Move my hood there. I feel like it's a good size bag. It's not overly big. I don't feel uncomfortable wearing it. I don't feel like it's too large. It's comfortable. I like it. And then to wear it as a sling, you unzip, move one of your swivels over to the other D-ring, and oops, adjust my sliders. I do have to adjust my sliders to wear it as a sling. And now it's a sling, just like that. And there it is as a sling. So you can wear it as a sling, a backpack, or say you have it as a backpack and you don't want to have to move the D-rings, yada yada. You can also just wear it over the shoulder. This is a great bag, and I also feel like it's a great bag for traveling because it can hold just anything you would need for traveling. So I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. Let's get started making this bag. So, this is our front top and our front top lining. The lining is cut without cutting the center part away like we do in the front portion. So this is what the front looks like. The center is cut out. The lining you cut without cutting out the centerpiece. So that is the only thing to make note of when you're cutting this portion. My front bottom, exterior and lining. Here I have my front pocket, exterior and lining, and then this is a front pocket backing, which is a little bigger. So if I grab, these two are the same. If I grab my front pocket piece, you'll see it is a little bigger. So make note of that, that you don't get them confused. So I will pin my front pocket and lining together and have my front pocket backing by itself. So then that way I know which is which. You'll be needing zipper tabs. I have 2 of my exterior and 2 of my lining. Here I have my large main panel, which I have chosen to do a contrast color, which is also a vinyl, and it's not interfaced. And I also have my lining, which is waterproof canvas. This is the wide zipper or wide gusset top. This is what the zipper goes onto. So I have my exterior and my lining. This is the wide gusset bottom. You'll have 1 cut of your exterior and 1 of your lining. And added to this, you'll have, if you're doing the water bottle pockets on the side or bottle pockets, you'll need a cut of your base. It does have a cut for a stabilizer piece for the base, but again, with 2 layers of vinyl, because this essentially will go right about here, and it's to cover the stitching for the bottle pockets, which will go on either side of this gusset. This will be covering that, so we'll have 1 layer, 2 layers, the layers of the vinyl pockets, which will also be vinyl. I feel that is going to be plenty sturdy, and then my waterproof canvas as lining. It's going to be fine without stabilizer, so I did not cut that. If you're not using vinyl, I do suggest cutting the stabilizer for your base piece. So that's my base piece and my gusset pieces. This is our top strap tab, which is also cut out of vinyl. It's from my accent color, and then I also have a foam piece that I've cut out for that. This is our back panel. It's large. I can't even get it in the frame there. There we go. Turn it sideways. So this is our back panel. my lining and foam. Be needing 2 cuts of your exterior for your straps. I got 2 pieces since I'm doing the convertible strap. If you're doing a regular strap, you'll need just 1 piece. Here are the strap anchors. I have 4 pieces of my vinyl cut out for this. This is my gadget pocket. This is a pocket that has a foam piece that you could cut out for it. Mainly if you're planning on carrying a device or something, so then it's extra protected. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to keep it a regular pocket, and I chose a cotton woven for my pockets. I thought it'd be nice to have a contrast fun pattern on the inside, so that's what I chose, and I did interface it with a woven interfacing. You will need either 1 or 2 bottle pieces, your lining and exterior. I've chosen to do 2 bottle pockets. It's optional to do 1 or none. I'm doing 2 of them, so I have my exterior and my lining for both pockets. Here we have our large zipper pocket. Again, I chose a cotton woven for my pockets. It's also interfaced. I've interfaced all of my cotton woven with a woven interfacing. And this is our back zipper pocket. And here I have my pen slip pocket. And that is it for the pattern pieces. Next, we're going to move on to what you'll need for hardware. Alright, let's go over our zippers and hardware and webbing and the rest of the stuff you'll need to make this bag. So here I have 5 zippers. Because I'm doing the convertible strap, there is an extra zipper to cut for that. If you choose to do all the pockets and not the convertible, then you'll only have 4 zippers. If you choose to use less pockets, then you'll have less zippers. I'm doing all pockets and a convertible, so I have 5 zippers here in total. So my top zipper is for my exterior front panel. This is for my convertible strap, my interior pocket, my main compartment zipper, and my back panel pocket zipper. So I have 5 pulls, 5 zippers. Here I have 2 sliders because I'm making the convertible strap, so I need 2 sliders. I have 3 D-rings, 2 for my straps. 1 is an extra D-ring, not in the pattern, but I'm adding an extra D-ring to my webbing, to my slide adjuster, so I can hang my bag. So I will show you how to do that. If you do choose to add that on, you'll need 3. I have 2 swivels since I'm doing the convertible, and 1 side slide buckle, or I think that's what you call that. So pretty. And then I've got my webbing. So there are 2 4-inch cuts of 1-inch wide webbing, 2 3-inch cuts of 1-inch wide webbing, and then you need 2 20 inches or longer cuts of webbing for your straps. I'm doing the convertible, so I need 2. If you're doing the regular strap, you'll need 1. Alright, and here are my binding strips. I cut out 1-inch wide binding strips the width of the fabric, so they're nice and long pieces of 1-inch wide waterproof canvas binding. And then last but not least, we have our elastic for our bottle pockets. I have 2 since I'm making 2 pockets. If you're making 1 or less, then you'll need 1 or none. Alright, well, that's what we need. Let's get started making this bag. Okay, so our pattern begins with making our strap. Since I am doing the convertible strap, I have 2 pieces for my strap, my zipper, my webbing, and I'll be needing some double-sided sticky tape, pair of scissors, a little ruler, and a marking pen. So if you are making the regular sling strap, the directions for that will be following this one. So skip this portion of the pattern and move on to the next portion. Alright, so since we are doing the convertible strap, the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to move our straps aside. We're going to work with our zipper first. I am going to grab my marking pen and my ruler, and we're going to find 5/8 of an inch, and we're going to make 2 marks across. Oh, we need to find which way it closes because we want it on the bottom. So this direction it opens, this direction it closes. We want it on the direction that it closes. We are going to mark 5/8. And if you don't know how to find 5/8, if you count the little notches or lines, those are 1/8 of an inch each. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 5/8 of an inch. Not sure if you could see anything there, but so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we mark. I can keep it from moving. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mark. Okay. I've placed a mark on either side, and then we're going to open our zipper tape, and we are going to fold right at those marks. So you're going to pinch right on that mark, just like that. So I have it pinched, and then we are going to take this portion and we're going to flip it underneath, and then that pinch folds right into a 90-degree angle. I'll grab some clips, and I'm going to clip that there. See, just like that. So it makes a 90-degree angle. So we are going to pinch right at that line. So I have it pinched. And then I'm going to grab the underneath and push up that part that we just pinched. And it creates a 90-degree angle. And we're going to go ahead and sew these down right along the edge just to hold them down. Alright, so this is what you should have sewn on the ends. And I did try that trick that people have been using where you burn the ends and then you kind of just pinch it together a little bit so they kind of melt together, which actually works really well. It's the first time I actually tried it, but I went and sewed it anyway just because it's temporary and I wouldn't want it to fall apart while I'm trying to construct the straps. All right, so now we got our zipper, and I'm gonna take one of my straps, turn it right side down, and I'm gonna grab a ruler, mark my center. Oop. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape. I'm using a 1/2 inch for this. And I'm using Wizardry Stitchery double-sided sticky tape. It's very sticky. Works really well. And it's tearable, which is nice. I don't like to have to reach for scissors just to cut it every time. So I like it. Works for me. Okay. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to fold one end. So I'm just going to use my mat here, and I'm going to fold it up to the 1 inch line. So I had, so you're essentially just folding it up by 1/2 inch or so. See, I had it down on my, so here's an inch between these boxes. And I just went up to the 1 inch line between that line. So it's basically folding it 1/2 inch. So now I'm going to fold my ends into the center to meet my line. Not all the way. I'm going to leave a little gap. So when I fold these together, there's enough room for them to fold. And I'm going to be clipping this at the bottom to reduce some bulk, so it doesn't matter if it sticks down or not. So we're going to keep going. Alright, so I've got that folded down. We have a raw end, and I have an end where I did a 1/2 inch fold. So what we're going to do, so I'm going to undo this just a little bit. And what I'm going to do to reduce some bulk, I'm going to cut at an angle. I just don't want to cut into my, so I'm going to cut at an angle. just like that. Now I'm going to take off this little piece right here, so it reduces my bulk. I can even cut this at an angle a little bit. So when you fold that in underneath that, it reduces a lot of bulk in comparison to that. So do the same thing on the next side. I'm going to fold that down just like that. And then we want to insert our webbing. We're going to take one end of our webbing, just lift this back up. And I'm going to line up the bottom edge here with my mat. And I'm going to put my webbing in about 1.5 inches. And then we fold that over. And now our webbing is inside the strap. I'm going to put a clip there to hold that. And now what we're going to do is that we're going to insert our zipper tape in here and sandwich that in just like that. Go all the way down to sandwich that zipper tape in. So I'm going to get some double-sided tape. And I'm going to run it down the edge of my zipper tape. Take the backing off. Your zipper pull needs to be at the bottom, and this is our bottom. So I want it close to my zipper tape, but not so close that I can't move my zipper pull through. And I like to have a straight zipper, so I am trying to line it up the best I can. There we go. Okay, fold this down. So we're going to take that and fold it over. So we're going to sandwich our zipper tape. You can put a few clips in just to hold it there. All right, so just like that, it's folded around. Our strap is now folded around this zipper tape, just like that. And now we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew at 1/8 inch seam allowance down this edge, all the way down to here, and we're going to go across and back up this way at 1/8 inch seam allowance, and we're leaving our raw edge open. Okay, we have finished top stitching our strap down on all 3 sides, and we left the top raw. So now we'll do the same thing onto the other side. Okay, we've gotten our strap completed. There it is. So pretty. I love the way this is turning out. Alright, so we're going to put our strap aside and we're going to move on to our strap anchors. I got 4 here, and I do have mine interfaced with a woven interfacing. So now you're going to need your 2 cuts of 3-inch webbing, and we're going to need our 2 D-rings. We're going to take one of those pieces of webbing and we're going to insert it through the D-ring, and we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to stitch this end closed at 1/8 inch seam allowance. We're going to do that with both of them, 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, we have our webbing attached to our D-rings. So now we're going to do one at a time. So you need one of your D-rings and your webbing. You're going to get one of your strap anchors and you're going to place your D-ring centered along the right side of your strap anchor. So right side of your strap anchor, you place your D-ring centered the best you can. I'm just going to guesstimate this. And you want the webbing sticking out of this right side about 1/2 inch. So you can get a ruler and measure to make sure you're about 1/2 inch. It's not an exact science. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just about 1/2 inch. I'm going to clip that in place, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to baste on the webbing to the strap anchor at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, we've sewn on our webbing and D-ring onto our anchor. Now we're going to grab one of our strap anchors and we're going to flip it right side down so that it'll be right sides together, just like that, right sides together. We're going to clip our edges. So things don't move on us at the sewing machine. And we're going to sew this left side and down the right side at 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're going to leave the bottom side open. Okay, now that's sewn together, sandwiching that webbing in between, and we left the bottom open. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim just this top portion so when I turn this out, I get nice corners. I'm not going to trim the rest of it. It does say to trim your seam allowance down, but I'm using vinyl. Don't really want to trim it down too much. Alright, so that's all I'm going to do is trim down there. We're going to turn this out gently. If you're using vinyl like me, it'll be a little bit tougher to turn that corner out. I use a handy dandy little Allen wrench to help me poke out those corners. So now that I have them poked out and everything's nice and ready to go, now we're gonna top stitch along the same sides. So here, I'll hold it this way, along that left side and right side at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're going to leave the bottom open, and then we're going to repeat and do all this again with the second strap anchor. Okay, those are now top stitched, and now we're going to set them aside and move on to our top strap tab. Okay, for this step we're going to need our strap, your 2 strap tabs, and your piece of foam. And what we're going to do is that we're going to grab one of our strap tabs. I'm going to find my centers because I have not done that. So if you've already done so, great. If not, do so. Alright, that works. So what we're going to do is that we're going to place one of our strap tabs facing up, grab our strap, and we're going to stick that right on top, sticking out by 1/2 of an inch or so. My strap's a little wider than that, so we're going to make that work. So I need to stick it out by 1/2 an inch. There we go. I'm going to clip that in place. And now we're going to baste this on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, we have that basted on. Now we're going to grab our other strap tab, which I'm also going to find my centers on. Just the top. Like that. We're going to flip it right side down, sandwiching that zipper strap right in the middle. Place some clips in there so it doesn't move. And now we're gonna go and we're gonna sew from this corner all the way up, across the top, and all the way down, and we're gonna leave this bottom section open. So do not sew on this bottom straight edge. We're just sewing on the sides. So up, across the top, and back down this side, leaving the bottom open. And we're gonna sew that at a 3/8 seam allowance. Okay, I've got that sewn on. I did have a little trouble at the machine because my camera is in the way, and every time it's in the way it bumps me. So I did have to make a little correction right around here. And then I decided to do a second line of stitches just to reinforce that stitch because I'm using a vinyl. So just wanted to make sure that I reinforced it. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to clip these ends right here. I'm not going to get too close to the stitches, and I'm not going to cut my strap either. I'm just going to trim down just a little bit. So trim down our seam allowance up to that strap. Alright, then we're going to turn this out. Sorry if I sound a little nasally, spring allergies getting to me. Okay, so I've turned that out. Mine looks a little more square than it should, and it's because my strap's a little bit wider and it is square, so it's creating this square shape rather than a more rounded shape. Kind of like that, but that's okay. I don't care. It doesn't matter. That works for me. I will have to trim this down to fit it in there, but that's okay. We can make it work. Okay, I have the foam inserted. Now we're going to go and top stitch. Alright, the top strap tab has been top stitched. We are now ready to move on to the next step. And just to point out, I did only do one row of stitching, mainly because I have some really thick spots right on these edges. And I didn't want to go over that again and risk tearing my vinyl. Even though I did use a scrap of leather to protect my vinyl, I just really didn't want to push it. So we're going to stick with the one row of stitching. I think it looks great. We're going to do it that way. Alright, so we're going to put this aside and move on to the next step. So on our next step, we're going to be working on our front panel. And what you're going to be needing is your front panel exterior top, your lining, your pocket pieces for your front, and that's your exterior and lining, your backing piece, your 16-inch zipper for your front pocket, zipper tabs, and your front bottom pieces, so your exterior and your lining. First, we're going to begin with our front bottom piece. So we're going to set all these aside. I have my lining, my exterior, and my pattern piece for my front bottom piece. There are these little notches on this pattern piece. I have it folded back. Here we go. So what I did was just cut one side and folded the other side back. So I'll show you up close. So these are the little notches. So I just cut one side and folded on the other line back. So then that way I have my pattern piece and my notch without having to cut out the notches. So what we're going to do is on the wrong side of the exterior and our lining, we're going to mark these little notches. So we'll line these up. I'll put some clips in there so my pattern piece doesn't move. And we are going to mark these notches on the wrong side of our exterior and lining pieces. Alright, so I've got my lines drawn on my lining, and now I'm going to draw my lines on my exterior. Okay, once you've got those done, set aside your pattern piece. I'm going to fold wrong side to the right side. So we're going to grab our pattern pieces, our little notch here, and we're going to find our ends and match them up. There we go. So you match them up on both sides. So you take your wrong side to the right side. So this is my right side, wrong side, and we're pinching on the wrong side, and we're going to match up those lines just like that. So we're matching them up on both sides. And I'm going to put a clip there, and what we're going to do is that we're going to sew really well. We're going to backstitch really well from the beginning at the end. We're going to sew straight down this line, and we're going to backstitch at the beginning and at the end really well. So we're going to do that with all four sides. So I'll show you again what we did here. So I'm going to, this is my wrong side of the fabric, and we're going to take our wrong side to the right side, and we're going to match up those ends. I'm going to make sure I can see those really well. And there we go. So now I'm going to crease that right there, put a clip, and we're going to sew from here to here, backstitching at the beginning and end really well. So repeat that with your exterior piece as well, and do the same exact thing, and then we'll be back. Alright, we have those stitched now, and so when you stitch them, they will look like this. So then we just turn them out just like that. And it forms this little rounded pleated bottom. Looks really cute. There you go. So same with the exterior. When you stitched it, should look like that. From the wrong side, you just push in on those stitch marks. It makes these cute little pleats, and our bottoms are done. So we're going to set those aside, and we are going to work on our zipper and our zipper tabs. So you should have 2 pieces of your lining and 2 pieces of your exterior cut. And what we're going to do is that we're going to sandwich the right side of our exterior facing down on the top of the zipper, and the right side of our exterior or lining on the underside of the zipper. So basically, right side is facing right side of zipper, right side of exterior is facing wrong side of zipper. We're going to sandwich those together. Put a clip in place so they don't move. And do the same on the other side. And now we're going to go take these to the machine, and we are going to stitch them in place, both sides, at 3/8 of an inch. Alright, now that you have those stitched, you want to flip these out just like that. So now your right sides are out just like that. I'm going to clip those in place. So they should look like this. And you take the top and the bottom and you flip them wrong sides together. Place a clip, and now you should have a cute little zipper tab. Just like that. So now we're going to go to the machine and top stitch these right along this edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, So our zipper is now ready and prepared. We will still need it, so let's find our centers on our zipper. I am going to clip a teeny tiny little notch in my zipper. Some people don't like doing that, so if you don't want to do that, don't do that. You can mark it with a pen. Okay, now I'm going to find my centers on my front pocket. So you'll need your front pocket piece for your front flap, top flap. Find the centers on that piece. And then you'll need to find your centers on your lining, if you haven't done so already. Alright, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to take our zipper, and I'm going to have my zipper closing to the left, and I'm going to find my center here. It's right side up at the moment, then I'm going to flip it right side down, and I'm going to start clipping my zipper to my front exterior pocket, just like that. So you want to find your top center, then clip at the bottom, make sure everything's nice and aligned, and then clip at the other side, and then you can start clipping all the way around. Use as many clips as you need, and I'm going to shape this pocket just a little bit in like a bowl shape, so kind of bowls up, kind of like that. Kind of hard to see, but if you shape it around there, it should fit nicely. Shouldn't be too much of a stretch to get this to fit. Alright, it's now clipped all the way around, and you're going to have this side of your zipper out the front, and your zipper and exterior are right sides together. Okay, so now we're going to go to the machine and baste this on. We got that basted down. Well, let's turn this out just to see what it looks like. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh, I love it. Look at that zipper pull. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, love it. Cannot wait to see what this looks like. There you go. Okay, so now we're going to take our lining, and we're going to take right sides together. So we're going to flip our right side down, so you should see your wrong side of your lining, wrong side of your pocket. We're going to sandwich that zipper inside between the lining and the exterior, so the zipper is going to be in the middle. We're going to sandwich that in. I'm going to find my centers first. And now we're going to clip, 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 clip all the way around. So now we have our clips all the way around from one end all the way to the other. We're going to leave the bottom open for turning it through. And make sure that when you are sewing this together at a 3/8 seam allowance, that you are feeling and moving your zipper out of the way, because our zipper is in there and it'll bunch up at the corners a little bit. So as you're sewing, just kind of push it down, make sure you're feeling it and moving it out of the way. And my zipper pulls right over here, so when I get to that, I'm going to go slow to make sure I don't hit my zipper, because my zipper pull, because we don't want to do that. And I'm just going to sew at a 3/8 seam allowance from one end all the way around down to the bottom end, and I'm going to backstitch well at the beginning and end, and I'm going to go slow, 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 slow. So I'm going to use pinking shears, and I'm going to trim just around my curves up here to see if that'll help turn out that curve a little better. So now I'm going to go back through, flatten out that seam again, and then we're going to go top stitch this down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to go from this end to this end, and we're going to start here, go all the way around, and end here. Okay, we have that top stitch. So now what we're going to do is grab our top front flap exterior piece, and we are going to flip this around and upside down. And oh, first I need to find my centers on my flap exterior. All right. So I have my front flap facing up, my pocket facing down and upside down, so the top flat part of our pocket is facing upward, and I'm going to take the center of my zipper and I'm going to line it up with the center of my front flap, and I'm going to clip that in place. Okay, and now I'm going to take, so this is what we have so far. I'm going to take this bottom end and I'm going to bring it up to meet the bottom of that pocket, clip in place, do the same with the other side. Okay, now finish clipping all the way around. Alright, it's now all clipped in place, and now we're going to go stitch that on at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so our pocket piece is now sewn on, and now there's this cute little pocket. How cute! Yay, I'm so excited how it's turning out. Alright, so we're going to turn it over. I'm going to now get my backing. This is my right side, wrong side, so I want my right side down. And we're going to find our centers, clip my center, I'm going to find my bottom center even though we're not sewing that. This helps me align it. And now I'm going to clip my backing all the way around. Alright, our backing piece is now on, and now we're going to go stitch that in place at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, we've added our backing piece, and now we're going to flip it over, and we are going to top stitch this seam away from the zipper. So the zipper is right here, so we're going to top stitch away from the zipper. So we're going to push that seam up against our flap panel piece, and we're going to top stitch along this edge all the way around. So we're going to start here, and we're going to top stitch all the way around, pushing that seam up towards that. all the way around to here. Just go slow. Slow is the name of the game. All right, our pocket is now done. Top stitching is done. Look how cute. This pocket is adorable. Love it. All right, so now we are going to move on to our next step, and that's going to be adding our bottom front flap. Okay, so grab your lining piece, your front top lining piece, and your front bottom lining piece, so that'll be attached to the lining, and our exterior bottom, too many things to remember, bottom piece is going to get attached to the exterior piece. So what we're going to do is that we're going to join these right sides together. So we're going to clip these in place, aligning our, no, let's find our centers here. Right sides together, matching our centers. Okay, matching our centers. And we're going to go to our one edge, match all of our raw edges, and then clip. Once you've got that all clipped, we're going to go ahead and sew this on at a 3/8 seam allowance. Alright, our bottom flap is now, our bottom front piece is now top stitched on, and our front panel is now completed. So now what we're going to do is repeat the same thing with our lining. Alright, my lining piece is now done, and now we can set that aside. Now we're going to work on our back panel zippered pocket. So grab your zipper for your back panel and your pocket for your back panel. I'm going to set these aside for a second, and I'm going to work on my pocket piece. So we're going to turn this right side down, and we're going to work on the long edge will be vertical and the shorter edge will be horizontal. So we're going to take this bottom piece and we're going to fold it in half and create a crease down the center. Alright, now that we have our pocket creased, I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to measure 1/2 inch from this crease down. So I'm going to measure, and I'm just going to mark that that's my 1/2 inch line. You don't need to do this, that's just what I'm doing. Now I want to find my centers because I'm going to use my ruler. So it's about my center there, and it's, I'm going to line up my center line and that line, and I'm going to draw my box. In the pattern it has you draw a 9-inch wide box. This is a 8-inch. I have this ruler and it just makes it so much easier, so that's what I'm going to do. You can do a 9-inch pocket if you'd like. I'm just going to stick with the 8. Works for me. Alright. We are going to grab our back panel. And this is the right side of our panel. We want our right side of our panel up. And we are going to align our pocket 2 inches from the bottom. Grab my ruler. I'm going to go 2 inches from the bottom, and of course I don't have my centers. Find your centers. 2 inches from the bottom. Centering my ruler, and that's where this bottom piece is going to go, and I'm going to butt up my pocket piece with that 2-inch mark. And then we want it 2 inches in from the side. 2 inches from the side. Alright, so right there we have 2 inches from the bottom, 1, 2, and 2 inches from the side, 1, 2. So this is where we're going to stitch our pocket. I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape. This is wash away, so it's not super sticky, to help keep that pocket in place so it doesn't shift on me. Now we're going to open this back up, and we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew around this box with a smaller stitch length, and then we're going to come back. Box is now stitched, and now I'm going to grab a ruler, find the center of the box. The box is a 1/2 inch box, so we're going to go down 1/4 of an inch or so. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to grab my seam ripper to start. You don't want to use your seam ripper to continue doing that. I mean, I guess you could, but I've done that before and gone all the way through. And then you want to cut all the way down the center without going all the way to the end of the box. You want to leave yourself about a 1/2 inch or so. And then from that end, you're going to cut into those corners in a V shape, and you want to cut all the way to those corners as good as you can without clipping your stitches. And if you'd like, you can draw a V to give you a visual on where to cut. It doesn't need to be perfect, so I'm not going to. So right there. So once you have cut your center line, we are going to push our pocket through. And if you flip it over, it'll help you press that seam out. And just roll it out. And then you want to grab your iron and press this seam well. Okay, so I'm going to go grab my iron, and we're going to flatten out that seam. Alright, so we're going to take our zipper. Mine's a lot longer than I need, but we're going to take our zipper and we're going to place it where the zipper pull is closed at the top and open going down. Unless you wanted a different orientation, that's up to you. But that's how I'm going to place my zipper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape to help me do that. So I'm going to flip this around. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to turn this around, lay my zipper down to try and center it best I can from this side. It's a big piece, so you'll have to move it around, lift it until you get it just right. Move your zipper pull in. Looks good enough. So now we're going to go and top stitch around this box at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I have gone ahead and done my stitching all the way around. I left my threads nice and long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to pull on my bobbin threads. Alright, there's one. So a loop pops up, And you just grab your stiletto or a little needle or something to help you pull that thread through. Here's the other one right there. Little loop pops up. Grab that loop. Now all 4 are in the back, and I'm going to tie these really well. I'm going to cut these off. Not my little knot. Use a lighter, and I'm going to burn those little threads and make sure they don't unravel. Here we go. So now we have a nice pretty stitching along the outside with no back stitching. Now we are going to flip this over and we are going to close our pocket. So we are going to stitch our pocket, clip this closed, and we're going to close our zipper pocket down this way, and this way at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I didn't press the record button to record the stitching, but it's really easy. I just sewed with it on this side so I can see what I was doing. And I started on this end, flipped up this side so I don't sew down my panel, and when I went all the way down, I back stitched well at the beginning, back stitched well at the corners, pivot, sewed, back stitched, pivot, sewed this way, got a little off, whatever, back stitched here, and now I'm going to trim down my seam allowance bit. Our pocket is now done. Cute little pocket down the side. Now we're going to work on our lining main panel zipper pocket. So you're going to need your lining main panel, your zipper, your pocket, a ruler, and some double-sided sticky tape. Alright, our top stitching is done, and I went ahead and closed up our pocket just like we did on our back main panel. They are done identically. So now we're going to move on to our pen slip pocket. Now you're going to need your exterior main panel and your slip pocket, pen slip pocket. And we're going to set the main panel aside, and we're going to fold our slip pocket so the short ends meet. We're going to fold it in half. And we're going to clip it in place, and we're going to sew the raw edges closed at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're going to leave a 3 inch or so opening at the bottom so we can turn our pocket out. And we are going to back stitch really well here and here. Now we're going to clip our corners. And we're going to turn our pocket right side out. Alright, grab a tool to press those corners out. I'm going to grab my pen. Alright, now go give this a nice press, and then we are going to top stitch along this top edge to close up our turning hole. Alright, so I'm going to go give this a nice press, and then we're going to top stitch along this top portion where our turning hole is at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Our pen pocket is now ready, and we are going to place our pen pocket on the right side of our large exterior panel. So I have my centers clipped, and we are going to place our pocket 3 inches from the bottom. So I'm going to find my center, measure 3 inches from the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to find the centers of my pocket. Give it a nice little crease. Line that up with my center, which is my 6 inch line is lined up with my center. So then I know that that's the center of my main panel here. So I'm going to grab some double-sided sticky tape to help me keep that in place to sew it down. Okay, I'm going to place that down, butting that edge up against the ruler. And now we're going to go to the machine and we're going to sew the sides and the bottom at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Our pen pocket is now attached to our main exterior panel, and if you have chosen to make sections for pens or sunglasses or whatever it is that you would like to do, that's great. I kept mine as one large pocket. I didn't think it was that big of a pocket to divide, and I don't know. I just thought it'd be nice to have one large pocket. So we're going to set this aside, and now we're going to move on to our gadget pocket. So I already went ahead and attached my gadget pocket to my exterior, and it did not record for whatever reason. So I'm going to show you what I did with the pocket. It gets sewn onto your lining piece, not your exterior, sorry, your lining piece. Sorry, it's a large piece. Can't get it all in the frame there. And so how you build your pocket is you have your two pieces. So these are cut just like the pocket, and you're going to have them right sides facing together with your straight edge meeting. And you're going to clip that straight edge together, and then you're going to sew it together at a 3/8 seam allowance. So when you sew that together, then you flip them right sides together. So let's pretend that's sewed. Flip them right sides together. This will be a straighter edge on top. Take those clips together off, and you'll have this, and you'll have a seam right in here, just like that when it's flipped. So it'll be somewhat like that. And then you're going to top stitch this edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, which gives you this. So it's now sewn together, has a nice top stitch, and then you are going to get your lining back piece, and you're going to baste your pocket on. So find your corner so you can line it up, and you're going to baste your pocket on along the sides and bottom. There is a foam piece that you can cut out for your gadget pocket. It is optional. I chose not to use that today, but if you do choose to do that, just make sure that it's in between these two layers before you sew them together. Flip them over and sew them together. Okay, so that's our gadget pocket. So now we are going to work on our bottle holders. So you can either choose to do 1, 2, or neither. So if you're not doing bottle holders, go ahead and fast forward. I am choosing to do 2. So I will have an exterior and lining for both. And what we're going to do is that we're going to place our exterior and our lining right sides together with the short end at the top. So our longer edges are along vertical and our shorter edges are horizontal, and we want to sew the top short edge together. So I'm going to clip these together. We're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right along the top. Alright, I went ahead and did both of them. They're both done the exact same way, so it's just quicker to get them done at the same time. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to flip these wrong sides together. Press out that seam. Just roll it between your fingers. I'm using vinyl, so it's going to be a little harder for me. If you are using just waterproof canvas or a cotton canvas or cotton woven of some sorts, this will be a little easier. So I'm just going to roll this seam in between my fingers. And I don't mind having that waterproof canvas peek out a little bit. I feel like it gives it a little bit of an accent. I think it's cute. It doesn't bother me. So I'm going to go ahead and finger press that down. Put a few clips in just to hold it. And then I'm going to do the same with the other pocket. The pocket's ready. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sew an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance along the top on both pockets. And then after you've done that seam, that top stitch, you're going to do another top stitch 1/2 an inch from that top stitch to create a channel for our elastic. So 1/8 of an inch top stitch on both along the top, and then 1/2 inch from that top stitch, you're going to go another top stitch 1/2 inch from that one. Now we have our channels sewn into our bottle holders, and now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our elastic pieces, cut to the specifications on our pattern, and I'm going to grab a safety pin, and I'm going to pin the end of this elastic to my safety pin to help me thread that through that channel. This is going to be a little bit harder for me since I'm using vinyl, but it'll go through there. Alright, so I'm at a point where the end of my elastic is coming to the end of my channel here. So we want to stop when this edge has reached this edge, and we're going to stitch it in place. So I'm just kind of inchworming that along slowly so I don't pull it too far. And we're almost there. A little bit more. Alright, so we're right on the edge, just like that. So now we're going to stitch this in place, and then we're going to finish pulling the bobby pin through. So let's go stitch this in place at the machine. We have stitched that end in place, so now I'm going to finish pushing through that bobbing pin. Once I get that to the end there, I can pull that through. So I got my other end of my elastic there. Clip it there so it doesn't go away. And now I'm going to go sew that on right there to secure it in place. Our bottle pockets are now done. Now let's set them aside. But look at how cute those are. Those are adorable. Alright, for this step, we are going to be needing our zipper, our top wide gusset exterior and lining, our bottom gusset exterior and lining, and your base piece if you're using water bottle holders. So what we're going to do first is we're going to work on the wide top gusset piece, and we're going to need our zipper. And I'm going to remove my zippers for this. I can add my zippers back on before we finish the next step. And what we're going to do is we're going to find our centers on our zipper. If you do not want to take your zippers off, that's fine. I'm going to take mine off, and then I'll put them back on, and I will let you know what step to put them back on so you don't sew your zipper closed without your zippers pulls. Alright, so I got my centers, and now what we're going to do is that we're going to flip our zipper right side down, and we're going to clip our center. Then we're going to grab the end of our zipper tape, and we're going to clip it to the end of the gusset piece, lining up those raw edges. Same with the other side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to clip our zipper tape to our gusset. The easiest way to do this is that I pick up the whole piece and I kind of lay it where it curves, because the zipper will seem like it's smaller than the curve, and it is if it's laying flat. But if you lay your piece kind of at a curve like this over your hand and just kind of curve it gently, just lay it curved and clip along, it will fit. So I'm going to clip along, keeping my piece curved. And just put clips If you need to move your clips around, that's fine. We're just gonna clip along. I'm just gonna keep going. So now we have our zipper clipped. You should have this part of your zipper open and it's right sides down facing each other, okay? Now we're gonna go baste this on. Our zipper is now basted on, and now what we're going to do is that we're going to grab our lining piece, and the right side of our lining is going to go down. So this is my right side, this is my wrong side, and I'm going to sandwich this lining piece in between the zipper and the exterior. So I'm going to line my ends first, just like I did with the zipper. Put a clip. Find my centers, clip there, and go to the other end and clip. Now if we do this just like we did the zipper, it should help line that curve up. And now we're going to go sew this on at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you have a zipper foot, go ahead and switch to a zipper foot so you can get nice and close to that zipper at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to flip both of these together. So now we're going to take, so they're sewn like this, our zipper's sewn in between, right? So now we're going to take both of these and bring them together, wrong sides together, just like that. So I'm going to find my centers and clip those together first. I'm going to clip this just to help us press that seam back, because now we're going to top stitch along this edge. So we're going to press this seam back, and it helps me to clip along the way so I can get it nicely lined up. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to top stitch along this edge right here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, we have top stitched that now together and it's looking so cute. So what I'm going to do differently in this step real quick before we move on to adding our gusset bottom piece is that I'm going to baste together these two layers, the lining and the exterior, just so there's no movement. Alright, I went ahead and basted that on so I don't get any shifting. So before we move on to adding the bottom gusset piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my zipper pulls on. So now is when you want to add them, because when you move on to the next part, you'll be sewing the ends of our zippers shut. Alright, zipper pulls are now on. And now we can move on to our gusset piece. So move your base piece aside for a moment. We don't need it just yet. And we need to grab our exterior gusset piece and we're going to line that up right sides together. So we have our gusset piece. Our top gusset piece is right here. So we got our bottom gusset piece and we want to flip that over. We want to line our edges up right sides together. And we're going to clip. Same with the other side. right sides together, and clip. Alright, and now we're going to go baste both of these on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, we've got that basted on. Now we're going to grab our lining piece. Right side, wrong side. So I'm gonna take my right side lining piece and I'm gonna match that up with the right side of the other side. So we've got this going on, right? So if we flip this out, it would look like this. So we want to flip that back over. So we're sewing right side to right side. Flip that over. Right sides to right side. Got those clipped. Now we're going to sew these two at 3/8 seam allowance and try to sew that at a 3/8 as good as you can possibly get it at 3/8. It's important to get the gusset right. So 3/8 seam allowance on both ends. Alright, so now we've got this crazy looking thing. And now we are going to turn this out so our gusset pieces line up. And we have a full circle. So this is the bottom part. Come around, this is the top part. We have a full circle, just like that. So now what we want to do is that we're going to top stitch those seams. So I'm going to push and finger press those seams down, and we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now we've got our circle and it's top stitched, and now we're going to go and baste the bottom gusset pieces together. So we're going to go and baste all along both raw edges all the way around, this side and this side, because I already did this part. So now we're going to go and baste the bottom layers together, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, we have now basted our lining all the way around, and now we are ready to add our bottle holders. So if you have chosen to do your bottle holders, then this is the next step. If you have chosen not to do bottle holders, then keep on going and fast forward. Alright, so to start off, we're going to need one of our bottle holders and a ruler, and we're going to find one of our side seams. So here is my gusset, right? So I got a side seam and the zipper and top gusset piece. So I'm going to place my bottle holder 1 inch above this seam. The seam that we stitched the top wide gusset to the bottom wide gusset. So this seam right here, we're going to measure 1 inch from that seam. And that's where we're going to place the top of our bottle pocket. So I got my ruler and I'm measuring about 1 inch. And I'm not going to get all crazy about this. I'm just going to... That looks good. So I'm going to place that right about there. So that's about 1 inch above that stitch line or seam line. So just like that. So on the other side we're going to do the same. So now what we're going to do, so we're going to line up, sorry, this is kind of hard to show. Alright, so we're going to line up our raw edge of our bottle pockets along the raw edge of that gusset seam. I'm going to clip that there. aligning the raw edges together. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. And it is going to create this bulge right here of the excess fabric. That's fine. Just keep clipping the raw edges, so meet your raw edges together and clip. Okay, and then I'm going to place a clip right here just to keep it out of the way while I'm sewing. And before we baste this pocket on both sides, so what we're going to do is that we're going to baste on this raw edge to here and this raw edge to here. So from one end of the bottle pocket to the other. But before we do that, we want to make sure that our base is going to cover our stitch lines when we stitch across the bottom on this pocket. So this base is supposed to be covering that. So let's prep our base real quick. And we're going to turn our base right side down, wrong side up, and we are going to measure an inch in and mark a line. Same with the other side. An inch and mark a line. Alright, I'm going to place some double-sided sticky tape along that line, and we're going to fold our edges in so we don't have a raw edge. So now our edges are folded in, and now I'm going to place the other pocket real quick. So I'm going to measure an inch. Try not to move what I've already done. Measure an inch. That looks good. Place a clip. So I think that's about right there. So when these meet, they will be even. And then I'm going to clip my sides down. I think my pockets are pretty even right there, so I'm matching up my seams, and my pockets are even on both sides. Yes, so they're nice and even. So now I'm going to check the bottom. Make sure, might be a little tricky, but make sure that this base is going to cover those stitches. If not, then we're going to have to make some adjustments. I think that will cover it. Yes. Alright, so we're going to move on to basting our bottle holders to our gusset. We have our bottle pockets basted on now. And now what I'm going to do is on one side at a time, we're going to take the clips off and we are going to push down on the fabric, creating a pleat on that pocket, just like that. So when we go to the sewing machine, because I don't really have a way to do this and show you, when you go to the sewing machine, you just push it down, just like that. When you push it down, it creates this pleat. So then you're going to sew down this pleat right along there, just baste it down. I'm going to do that to both sides. Okay, so I'm going to go to the sewing machine, And I'm going to push down on this side and on this side, and I'm going to baste it down right along the bottom edge of the pocket. Okay, our pockets are now sewn on with the pleats at the bottom and basted down. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to grab our base cover that we had folded earlier with our edges folded in by an inch. We folded up to that inch line. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to match our centers. So if you haven't found your centers yet, find your centers on your base and on your gusset piece. And I'm going to match my centers first, aligning our raw edges together. Grab some clips and clip at my centers first. And now I'm going to clip to the side and add clips. Go to the other side, add clips. So repeat on the other side. My clips are now added, holding my base portion in place. And what we're going to do is that we're going to top stitch along the short ends. We're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Along the raw edges, long raw edges, we're going to baste on. And then we're going to top stitch again along this other side and baste down this side. Okay, our base is now sewn on, top stitched at the seam, and basted down the raw side edges. Alright, here we have our back panel, strap anchors, and a ruler. So I'm going to measure up from the bottom edge. From the bottom edge, we're going to measure up 1.5 inches from the center. 1.5 inches. And that's where we're going to be placing our strap anchors. So I'm going to grab one of my strap anchors, and you want the webbing and D-ring facing upward. So I'm just going to line that up, and I'm going to stick it out, I don't know, about 1/4 of an inch or so. I'm going to place some clips there. I'm going to grab my other anchor and do the same. Place a clip at the bottom. And now we're going to go baste these strap anchors down to the back of our panel, and then that'll be ready and done. And then we are going to assemble our bag. Alright, straps are now connected. My foam is already attached to my back panel. I just use some double-sided sticky tape to put it on there, and then when I sew everything, it'll be fine. So next we want to grab our front flat panel again, and we are going to grab our buckle. So we want the one with the side release buttons. So we are going to put our webbing through and around, and we're going to go to the machine and we're going to stitch this down right at the end. Just baste it down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And we're going to do the same with the other side. The male end is the one that goes on this portion, but since we're going to the machine, we're going to do this side also while we're at it. And we're going to go to the machine and stitch those together. Okay, we have finished sewing our webbing And now we're going to take the male end right side down, wrong side up, and we're going to center our webbing piece with our side buckle right in the center the best we can. And I'm going to stick this out about a 1/4 inch, and then we're going to baste it in place. Place a clip, and I'm going to go to the machine and we're going to baste this on at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so now we're going to grab our lining front panel piece, and I'm going to set my other buckle aside for now, and we are going to sandwich the exterior and our lining together. So I'm going to flip my right side of my lining down, so right sides together. This is my wrong side, and we are going to match up our raw edges on the top, clip, and then we're going to clip along the curved edge. Alright, so we are going to go and sew this on at a 3/8 seam allowance. We have our lining sewn on now, and I'm going to clip my sides, and we're going to trim down our seam allowance and our corners, but we're not going to trim off this portion where our webbing is sewn down. So from the corners all the way down and following where we sewed, we're going to trim down. I'm going to use my pinking shears to help me turn that corner a little better, but first I'll use some scissors here. And you want to trim it down to about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch or so. And then I'm going to use my pinking shears. So now we're going to turn this right side out. Just like that. I'm going to poke my corners out. I'm going to use a pen first and see if that'll help. I got my corners poked out. And now we're going to roll that seam with our fingers to make sure it lays nice and flat. If you're using fabric that you can iron, this portion would be easier with an iron. And just make sure you roll out these seams so they lay nice and flat. And I'm going to place a few clips along the way. So now let's go top stitch at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Let's grab our 2 main panel pieces. So you want to grab your lining piece and your exterior piece. And I'm going to flip over my exterior piece and join them wrong sides together. So this will be your lining and your exterior. So you want them wrong sides together. And we're going to pin, clip these together. I'm going to use lighter clips for this, and we're going to go baste these 2 layers together since we're doing the binding method. And we're going to baste at about an 1/8 of an inch. Alright, those 2 are now basted together. Just like that. I'm going to have my pocket opened up about halfway to make sure that my zipper stays out of any sides over here when I go to put the bag together, because I don't want to hit that while I'm binding. So make sure your zipper pulls are in the middle, and let's do the same thing to our back panel. So I've got my centers clipped on that one, but not on this one, so I'm going to find my centers. So now we are going to turn the back side right side down lining right side up. And we are going to find our centers. This is a little bit bulkier because of the foam, so I'm going to use my clips, my Wonder Clips. I'm going to clip along, matching the raw edges. And we are going to do the same thing like we did on that main panel. We're going to baste the 2 layers together. Alright, my layers are now clipped together. So let's go baste this together, same way we did the last panel. 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now we're going to grab our front flap and our main panels that we have sewn already together, and we're going to baste our front flap and main panels together. So find your centers, and then I'm going to clip along the bottom first, making sure that as I clip, this bottom portion lays nice and flat and straight. Alright, and now we can clip up the sides. So now we have that clipped together, and we're going to go baste these layers together at our machine now. Our main panel is now attached to our front flap. I'm now going to tuck this flap portion in to there to keep it out of the way for the next step. Let's see, now we have our main panels attached to the front. So now we're going to grab our gusset piece, fold our top edge down out of the way. I'm going to move the zippers out of the way as I clip. And so we're going to take our center of our zipper and we're going to line it up with the center of our main panel. And I'm going to place a clip. And I'm going to put a few just to hold it there because my materials are heavy. There we go. And now I'm going to find my center at the bottom. And this is what I said by a lot of layers. It starts to become quite thick. So think about those fabric choices depending on what your machine can handle. Okay, so I got that all lined up, so now we're going to start clipping along the edges, and then once we're done clipping, we're going to baste these layers together at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm going to just continue clipping. Alright, I got most of it clipped now, and now I'm going to work on these corners. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push them in a bowl shape, just like that. Clip them in. And a very, very thick section. Okay, I'll do the same for the other side. Alright, it's all clipped, ready to go. This is what it should look like. On this side you should see just your lining. Flip it around, you should see all your exteriors. Okay, so now we're going to go and baste this on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go very, very slow. There are a lot of layers. Just go slow. All right, whew, we got through that. These corners right here are super thick, and it adds even more bulk with these bottle holders in here. And since I chose a vinyl, it was quite thick for me. So I ended up, like I showed in the sewing part of it, just doing the straight edges around this top corner, down this straight edge, and then this straight edge, and left these two corners to do the other direction so I could get it under my needle a little better without my fabric shifting too much. Doing it the other way, my clips were popping off and there was just too much. So hopefully that worked. So now I'm going to flip this over and see how it looks before we move on. All right, that's looking pretty good. Not too bad. Alright, so that's what we've got so far. So doing it that way did help a lot. Yeah, I like it. Alright, so now we are going to flip this right back out. Tuck this back in. And now we're going to add our binding to this section. I got 2 strips of binding. We are going to cut these edges off. I'm going to fold this down here like that. Start that there. And then I'm just going to start clipping around as I go. I don't pre-crease my binding. It's waterproof canvas. It won't stay. Doesn't matter. But if you use a double fold type binding, the pre-made type binding, that usually already has a pre-made crease on it. Or if you're making your own binding, you can pre-crease it by creasing it down the middle, if you'd like, if it makes it easier. I just fold as I go. So I'm going to continue doing this all the way around until I get back up here. And in the pattern, it does suggest to cut your binding at 1 1/4 if you are using vinyl, like I did. But I didn't. I cut mine at 1 inch like I always do. So let's hope it covers it all. I've gotten it all pinned down or clipped down, and I've gotten to my end here. So I'm going to remove those few clips and make sure I overlap. Cut off my end, and I'm going to cut these corners. I'll fold it down just like I did the first one. I'll lay that one down so then that way my first overlap lays right in the center. Oh, just like that. Place a clip right there and put my clips back where I had removed them. Okay, so now we are nice and clipped all the way around. Now you're going to go stitch this on at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we'll be back. Alright, we did it! So, 1 down, 1 more to go. Not too bad. So what we're going to do is grab our other female end of webbing. Earlier I did sew this end down without my extra D-ring that I wanted to add. So this isn't part of the pattern, but I want to add it on there so I have a way to like hang my bag when I don't know, when I'm somewhere where I want to hang it. So I picked it and then added my D-ring and re-sewed it. So anyway, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to take our webbing with our female end of our buckle slider, and we're going to center it along the top edge of our gusset piece. We're going to center that right about there, and we're going to have that sticking out. It does not say, so I'm going to stick it out just a little bit, 1/4 inch or so. Okay, I'll place a clip, and now we're going to go baste this webbing onto the top portion of our gusset piece at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, we have our buckle now not top stitch, basted onto our gusset piece, and that is facing right side up. I did not mention that earlier, so make sure that your buckle piece is right side up. Some buckles do have a certain direction that they need to be in, so you won't be able to buckle them together if they're backwards. Mine doesn't matter, mine works either way, but I do have a D-ring on it, so I made sure that it was right side up. Alright, so now let's get our back panel and our strap. We are almost done. So I have my strap here, really long strap. So what you're going to do is that you're going to have your piece that we've been working on, so the one that we've already done our first portion of binding to with the gusset piece, and then all we have left is our strap and our back panel. So let's do our strap first, and then our back panel goes on. So what we're going to do is that we're going to find our centers on this piece. If you haven't done so already, it's probably a lot easier before this step, but you know, that's just how I do. We are going to turn right side down. So you should be seeing the back side of your zipper, not the front, the back. So the front goes right sides together. And we're going to clip this centered at the top edge, right where we put our webbing piece. I'm going to turn this around to see if I'm centering it a little better. And you're going to line it up with the top edge. Okay. Now I'm going to put some clips on. So now I've got that centered. And now we are going to go baste this on to the top portion of our gusset piece. We've attached our strap, and now make sure your strap is nicely tucked in and out of the way out of everything. If you want to, you can possibly even tuck it in there. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Let's do that. So now I got my back panel. I'm gonna turn it right side down, and I'm gonna find my centers, clip, centers at the bottom, clip. We're so close to being done. Okay, and now, oh, I probably should trim these down real quick. Now we can redo that again. Find my centers, and now we can go clip, clip, happy. We are now clipped all the way around. Let's go to the sewing machine and get her sewn down at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now we're going to add our last piece of binding, and we are almost done with this bag. So now I'm going to clip my ends, just like I did the first time. Start at the top. I'm going to trim away the rest of this webbing. And start at the top, fold in my end. Doesn't matter how much you fold in, I just fold in a little bit. And I'm going to fold that around and start clipping. So on this portion, just like the original Wayfarer, because it is a straight line, it's not really a curve, it's a straight line, what I like to do is that I grab right here, and then on this portion I pinch towards my fingers, and it creates a mitered corner. So because it's not an actual curve, I miter that corner. I think it gives it a neater, cleaner finish look. If you're using something a little bit more flexible for binding, then you probably could get around that without having to do that. But that's how I do that top little corner portion. So let's continue clipping. Alright, we've reached this corner now. So now on this side, I will hold it here. So I will pinch it here. And then with this side, I will pinch right at that corner towards my fingers to create a mitered edge. See if I can show you what that looks like. Mitered edge, just like that. And if you've quilted at all, you know how to do it. We're now ready to go sew this down. Let's do this. We're almost done. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Woohoo! We did it! We are done! That was an arm workout, let me tell you. And it's not because of the pattern, it's because of all the vinyl I used. Not the pattern's fault, my fault. But we did it. I am so happy with it. It looks awesome. Now let's turn her out and see what it looks like. Oh my gosh, take a look at this. Oh, I love this bag. Love it. I love the first one. I love this one even more. I'm going to make style 2. I'm definitely going to make style 2. I love this bag. It is much larger than the first one, so I did have to go wrestle with it for a little bit while I turned it out, because I'm really short and I did not have leverage to turn the bag out on top of the table. So, but I did turn it out. And look at this. Oh my gosh. Ain't that adorable? Look at those zipper pulls. Ah! Just love it. So now we're going to finish our straps and we're done. Alright, so we want to grab our sliders and we're going to go in through the bottom, over the bar, and slide through. Do the same with the other one. Grab our swivels And we want our swivel hook on the top. Same with the other one. And then we're going to grab our ends. So we'll start on one. So we got our end, we got our slider, swivels facing up. And then we're going to grab the bottom and we're going to turn so you can see. Move your swivel out of the way. Grab the end of your webbing and you're going to go through the bottom again, but not from this side, from this side. And you want to push your webbing through like that. So you kind of form a loop underneath it, kind of like that. And then you go through the top, over that center bar, and you want to pull through about 1.5 inches or so, and you're going over the bar like that. So it's going over the bar, and you're going to sew this down or put a rivet. I'm going to sew one line of stitching and then I'm going to do a rivet also. So for now I'm going to put a clip there and do the other side. Alright, so I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do that now. Da, 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 da. So what do you guys think? I love this bag. Love, 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 love. So I did have a little bit of trouble because I chose all vinyl for my bag and waterproof canvas. So because we did the binding method, some of my areas did get quite thick, but it's not doable. I was able to do it just by going slow, taking my time, adjusting the way that I made it, and I got through it. It took me a little bit. I had to wrestle with it a little bit, but that's fine. So it can be done. So I had extra added thicknesses like right on these corners, especially because of the water bottles. If I would have chosen something else for the water bottles, I think that I would have been able to sew through that section a lot easier, not having to stop and change the direction of the way that I was sewing it. But that's okay. We made it work. So, and I love it. I love the way it turned out. So if you make this bag, I would love to know. Tag me on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook. Down in the comments below, if you have any questions or want to know anything, just leave them down in the comments below. I will get back to you. And I will have everything that I used, that I know of where I got it from. I will have it in the description box down below with links. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and give me a like, and thanks. Until next time.